Hello friends, welcome back to our channel. I hope you all are well and doing great. So today I'm back with another video to continue our UCAT test preparation. As you guys know, we have started a third type of decision making and we are going to complete it in this video, and we will start the next type in that video. But if you have any confusion, you can ask me in the comment section. If you like our video, don't forget to press the like button. Okay, so let's start with the question number 31 of this type, which is, will introducing a congestion charge on vehicles entering city centers negatively impact designer shops in the centers? Select the strongest argument from the statements below. Option A, yes, it may encourage people to shop at out of town shopping centers, leading to a congestion charge in other areas of the city. Option B, yes, with the introduction of a congestion fee in a certain city, traffic fell by 15%, reducing the daily commute times of local people by almost 30%. Option C, no, a prior instance in a certain city found that a congestion tax on vehicles did not affect the footfall in high street shops. Option D, no, the value of the congestion charge rather than the charge itself will determine if people wishing to shop in particular shops will decide to visit alternative places. So let's see which option is the correct one and which one are not correct. So here we have correct response is option D, and option A is incorrect because it does not focus on the impact on designer shops in the city center. B is incorrect because it focuses on daily commute time more than on impact on businesses. Option C is incorrect because while it is a good argument, it only talks of one instance and refers to high street shops rather than designed ones. Option D is correct because shopping at high-end stores is not a daily affair. The tax has to be significant enough to deter someone from occasionally paying it to reach the center. So here we have a correct option is D, and because of that reason, which says that no, the value of the congestion charge rather than the charge itself will determine if people wishing to shop in particular shops will decide to visit alternative places. Does ordering food online daily from restaurants lead to a healthier lifestyle? Select the strongest argument from the statements below. Option A, yes, people save time and hard-earned money by eliminating grocery shopping. Option B, Yes, a company survey revealed the ease of ordering food online has stopped employees skipping lunch to meet deadlines. Option C, no. The convenience and ease lead most people to unconsciously order and consume more food than they require. Option D, no. Customers can't control the freshness of the ingredients in the food they order. So here we have a correct response is option C, but A is incorrect because nothing is mentioned about the money being spent on food ordered online. Also, grocery shopping need not take up one's time. Option B is correct. So B is incorrect because it talks about the timeliness of meals rather than health. Also, the argument is based on the results of one company, thus addressing a small segment of the population. Option C is correct because excess indulgence of food does not promote a healthy lifestyle. Option D is incorrect because freshness is not the only factor that results in good health. Customers can also choose to order well balanced meals. So here we have option C as the correct option, which says no. The convenience and ease lead most people to unconsciously order and consume more food than they require. Thus, involving toddlers in kitchen chores aid their physical development. Select the strongest argument from the statements below. Option A, yes, activities like counting, measuring, and weighing ingredients help them develop mathematical skills. Option B, yes, activities like mixing, spreading, and pouring help in the development of fine motor skills and hand eye coordination. Option C, yes, sharing quality time with toddlers in a relaxed manner and working with recipes help their language development. Option D, no, poisonous substances like cleaning agents and sharp objects such as knives pose safety risks to unsupervised toddlers that far outweigh any positive impact. So the correct response is option B. A is incorrect because while it is true, it addresses the development of mathematical skills that are more cognitive than physical. B is correct because the argument gives examples of safe activities that aid in the development of physical skills. And option C is incorrect because language development is not part of the physical development. Option D is incorrect because the argument talks about the unsupervised toddlers while the question addresses involving them in kitchen chores. So here we have a correct option is B, which says yes, activities like mixing, spreading and pouring help in the development of fine motor skills and hand-eye coordination. Does introducing vocational education, that is practical training in a skilled craft, and secondary education provide some students with a good alternative to college education? Select the strongest argument from the statements below. Option A, yes, getting hands-on experience at school will give students clarity to reflect on their interests and passions. Option B, yes, it will put an end to students with special talents having to undergo college education that does not assist in honing their skills. Option C, yes, employers prefer hiring candidates who have practical knowledge of how things work than ones with knowledge of only theoretical procedures. Option D, no, it will encourage students interested in careers that require higher education to make incorrect career choices by foregoing college education. So here we have a correct response is option B, and option A is incorrect because it reflects on students' interests and passions, and college education need not be mutually exclusive. Option B is correct because it refers to the benefits of a specific group of students. Option C is incorrect because this argument does not explain why introducing vocational education in school is a good alternative to college education. It makes a case for having practical knowledge of things. Option D is incorrect because exposing students to different trades is unlikely to encourage students to make career changes unless it really interests them, in which case it is good that they are exposed to it early on rather than later. So now we have a correct option is option B, which says yes, it will put an end to students with special talents having to undergo college education that does not assist in honing their skills. The scholarships based on academic achievements and extracurricular activities in college help the overall development of a student. Select the strongest argument from the statements below. Option A: yes, scholarships with academic requirements motivate students to maintain good grades and stay focused on their work. Option B: yes, scholarships specific to certain academic subjects provide students with valuable knowledge and experience in their chosen field of study. Option C: no, focusing on the requirements of the scholarships leaves students with little or no time to develop social and networking skills. Option D: no, studies show that there is no difference in performance at work between students who had scholarships and the ones who did not. So option C is the correct option and option A is incorrect because it focuses only on academic growth. Option B is incorrect because it again focuses only on academic or intellectual growth. Option C is correct because it explains how scholarships can deny students social growth, which in turn means that they do not develop overall. Option D is incorrect because the question does not ask for a comparison between students with scholarships and students without, which this argument focuses on. Therefore, it does not answer the question of whether scholarships help in the overall development of a student. So here we have option C as a correct option, which says no. Focusing on the requirements of the scholarships leaves students with little or no time to develop social and networking skills. Okay, now we have completed a third type. Let's move towards our fourth type of decision making, which is interpreting information. Let's read some instructions before moving towards the examples. Information will be presented in various formats. Example: written passages, graphs, charts. You are required to interpret this information to determine which conclusions follow. These questions have multiple correct response options. You need to drag and drop the correct responses. So again, there will be a drag and drop options that you will have to drag. So click the next button to proceed. coffee contains caffeine, volatile substances, and organic acids. Volatile substances lend a distinct aromatic flavor to coffee. Organic acids lend a bitter taste to coffee. The graph shows the relationship between the extraction time and the amount extracted for the three components. So here we have some information given, and then we have a graph is given. Okay, so here we have the graph. Here the amount of component extracted is given, and their extraction of component in water is given. So place yes if the conclusion does follow, and place no if the conclusion does not follow. Coffee brew extracted at 4 minutes is the least flavorful. Among the three components, caffeine is the quickest to dissolve in water. Someone who prefers bitter coffee should brew it for about 8 minutes. For a perfectly aromatic cup of coffee, the powder should be ground finely. The higher the temperature of the water, the more bitter the taste of coffee. So here we have 5 conclusions given, and we have to tell that which one does follow with the question and which one does not. So here we have first conclusion. It does not follow because the amount of volatile compounds that lend an aromatic flavor to coffee is highest at 4 minutes of extracting time. Therefore, coffee brew extracted at 4 minutes should be highly flavorful. So because of this reason, the first conclusion does not follow the statement of the question. So that's why we will drag a no and drop it here in front of this conclusion. Next we have second conclusion, which says among the three components, caffeine is the quickest to dissolve in water. This conclusion does follow because coffee is brewed in water, and the graph shows that caffeine is the earliest component to be extracted. Caffeine is therefore the quickest to dissolve in water among the three components. So this is the reason we have because of which the second conclusion does follow. So we will drag a yes and drop it in front of this conclusion. Then we have a third conclusion which says someone who prefers bitter coffee should brew it for about 8 minutes. This does follow because the amount of organic acids that are extracted, which lend a bitter taste to coffee, is highest at around 8 minutes. So the third conclusion does follow. That means again we would drag a yes and drop it here. Fourth conclusion, which says for a perfectly aromatic cup of coffee, the powder should be ground finely. This conclusion does not follow because nothing in the graph suggests that fineness of coffee powder relates to aroma. So the fourth conclusion does not follow, so we will drop a no in front of this conclusion. Fifth conclusion, the higher the temperature of the water, the more bitter the taste of coffee. It does not follow because the graph shows no correlation between brewing temperature and taste. So the fifth conclusion does not follow. So again we will drag a no and drop it here in front of this conclusion. So here we have these conclusions which does follow and which one does not follow the statement of the question. Next question we have question number 2, which says a company produces two types of machines, machine A and machine B. A single unit of machine A can be produced in 100 hours and a single unit of machine B can be produced in 25 hours. The table shows certain combinations of the number of units of each machine that the company can produce during a month utilizing all the available labor. The only limiting factor in this production process is the labor in hours available to the company. So here we have machine production, machine A and machine B. You can see the values of the production of machine A and B. So place yes if the conclusion does follow and place no if the conclusion does not follow. First conclusion says an order requiring 2500 units of machine B alone in a month cannot be achieved. Second, a target of producing 200 and 1800 units of machine A and B respectively cannot be achieved. A target of producing 100 and 1500 units of machine A and B respectively may leave many workers sitting idle. Fourth conclusion, which says in an efficiently running production system, if 500 units of machine A are being produced, then the number of units of machine B produced must be higher. A target of producing 200 and 1600 units of machine A and B respectively may leave production equipment underutilized. So the first conclusion, it can be concluded using the information in the table that the company has 60,000 hours available within the month. So first conclusion does follow, because 2500 units of machine B would require 62,500 hours, so it cannot be achieved. So we will drag our yes and drop it here in front of this conclusion, as it does follow. Second conclusion, which says a target of producing 200 units of machine, 1800 units of machine A and B respectively cannot be achieved. So it does follow, because 200 units of machine A and 1800 units of machine B would require 65,000 hours, so it cannot be achieved. So this one again does follow. It's a true statement related to the statement of the first one. So we will drop a yes in front of this conclusion. Next we have a third conclusion, that a target of producing 100 and 1500 units of machine A and B respectively may leave many workers sitting idle. This does follow, because 100 units of machine A and 1500 units of machine B would require 47,500 hours, meaning there would be 12,500 idle hours. So it does follow again, so we will drag a yes and drop it here. Next we have a fourth conclusion. In an efficiently running production system, if 500 units of machine A are being produced, then the number of units of machine B produced must be higher. It does not follow, because 500 units of machine A would require 50,000 hours. So there would only be enough hours to produce 400 units of machine B. Fourth conclusion does not follow, so we will drag a no and drop it here. Next we have a last conclusion of this question, the fifth one. It does not follow, because 200 units of machine A and 1600 units of machine B require 60,000 hours exactly. So no equipment would be underutilized. So it does not follow. So again we will drag a no and drop it here in front of this conclusion. increasingly contrasting argument over the safety and need of genetically modified crops shows no signs of preceding advocates hold them to be safer since they are produced using fewer pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. In the developing world, grappling with the grave problem of malnutrition, genetically modified crops can have vitamins and minerals added to them to provide greater nutritive benefit to people who rely on a single staple food. Proponents emphasizes the ability to augment agricultural production and address risks associated with climatic fluctuations. Critics, however, claim that the benefits do little to compensate for their ills. So place yes if the conclusion does follow, and place no if the conclusion does not follow. The debate on genetically modified crops has been reconciled. Second, the advantages of genetically modified crops clearly outweigh their risks. Third conclusion says genetically modified crops are more tolerant to droughts than traditional crops. As compared to genetically modified crops, traditional crops use more pest control agents. People who primarily consume rice can get greater nourishment from genetically modified rice than traditional rice. So we have 5 of these conclusions, so let's see which one does follow and which one does not. So here we have the first conclusion, which is the debate on genetically modified crops has been reconciled, does not follow, because the first and the last sentence of the passage clearly state that the debate between the benefits and drawbacks of these crops is showing no signs of receding or reconciling or settling. So because of this reason, we can say that the first conclusion does not follow. So we will drag a no and drop it here in front of this conclusion, like this. Then we have second conclusion, which says the advantages of genetically modified crops clearly outweigh their risk. It does not follow because the last sentence states that some people claim that these crops have more risk than benefits. Additionally, though the passage describes more benefits than risks, it does not state that the benefits outweigh the risks. Again, this conclusion does not follow, so we will drag a no and drop it here. third conclusion, which says that genetically modified crops are more tolerant to droughts than traditional crops. It does follow because the passage states that genetically modified crops address risks associated with climatic fluctuations, and drought is a climatic aberration. So this one does follow. So we will drop a yes in front of this conclusion. Next we have a fourth conclusion. It does follow because the passage states that genetically modified crops are safer because they use fewer pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers, which are all types of pest control. So the fourth conclusion does follow the statement of the question. So that's why we will drag a yes and drop it here in front of this conclusion. Now we have a last conclusion which says people who primarily consume rice can get greater nourishment from genetically modified rice than traditional rice. It does follow because the passage states that these crops can provide greater nutritive benefit to people who rely on a single staple food, which is rice in this particular case. So the fifth conclusion again does follow, so we will drag a yes and drop it here in front of this conclusion. Next question we have question number 4. Unlike a company ongoing operations which are aimed at managing ongoing repetitive processes, a project is directed towards a particular outcome with a beginning and a clear end. This does not mean that a project's duration is short. In more recent times, managers, other than performing routine work, often find themselves managing both the process and the services aspects of a project. Though a distinct set of skills is required for each role. A manager donning two hats definitely needs to learn to multitask. Place yes if the conclusion does follow, and place no if the conclusion does not follow. So the first conclusion is a project is aimed at delivering a specific result. Second, the new age manager has a more diversified job portfolio. Third, business processes that extend indefinitely can only be part of ongoing operations. A manufacturing unit producing 200 mobile phones each day represents an ongoing operation. And the last one we have that the redesign of a mobile handset by a mobile company is a part of ongoing operations. So the first conclusion that says a project is aimed at delivering a specific result, it does follow because projects are directed towards a particular outcome. So that's why we will drag a yes and drop it in front of this conclusion. Second, we have the new age manager has a more diversified job portfolio. So it does follow because the passage states that operation managers often find themselves managing projects as well as doing routine work. And the phrase donning many hats can also be interpreted to mean that a new age manager has a diversified job portfolio. So the second conclusion does follow. So we will again drag a yes and drop it here in front of this. Third one that says business processes that extend indefinitely can only be part of ongoing operations. It does follow because ongoing operations are like unprojects in that they do not have a definitive beginning and a clear end and can be interpreted clear end and can be interpreted to extend indefinitely. So the third conclusion does follow, so that's why we will again drop a yes in front of it. Now we have a fourth conclusion which says a manufacturing unit producing 200 mobile phones each day represents an ongoing operation. It does follow because a manufacturing unit producing the same number of handsets every day is a repetitive recurring output and qualifies as part of an ongoing business operation and not a project. So the fourth conclusion does follow, so we will drag a yes and drop it here. Fifth conclusion that says the redesign of a mobile handset by a mobile company is a part of ongoing operations. It does not follow because redesigning a handset would be unique and time bound and therefore qualifies as a project and not an ongoing operation. So again, fifth conclusion does not follow, so we will drag a no and drop it here in front of this conclusion. In order to understand the character and lifestyles of the people of a civilization, the geography of the region cannot be overlooked. It is hardly possible to understand history without this constant companion. Many of the earliest civilizations sprang up along river systems, and farming practices being timed and tailored around the fluctuating water levels is well documented. The accessibility of a region, especially by sea, triggers economic and social development as it facilitates the movement of industrial goods and services, making them more competitive in world markets. The economic success of resource-rich regions further reinforces the correlation. Place yes if the conclusion does follow, and place no if the conclusion does not follow. First conclusion that says history influences geography. Second, geographical patterns deeply impact human life. Third, rivers provide a natural defense against enemies and invaders. The average income levels in landlocked regions are possibly lower than those with coastal access. The financial success of some countries may be attributed to the vast iron ore and gold deposits. So let's see which conclusion does follow and which one does not. So here we have our first conclusion, which says history influences geography. It does not follow because the opposite is suggested in the passage. So this one is a no, so we will drag a no and drop it in front of this conclusion like this. Next conclusion says that the geographical patterns deeply impact human life. It does follow because the passage mentions that civilization sprang up along river systems and farming practices were timed and tailored around the fluctuating water levels. So it does follow, so we will drag a yes and drop it here in front of this conclusion. Okay, so we have a third conclusion which says rivers provide a natural defense against enemies and invaders. It does not follow because there is nothing in the paragraph to suggest this. So this one does not follow, so we will drop a no in front of this conclusion. Next we have a fourth conclusion which says that the average income levels in landlocked regions are possibly lower than those with coastal access. It does follow because the passage states that the accessibility of a region, especially through sea, triggers economic and social development as it facilitates the movement of industrial goods and services, making them more competitive in world markets. So this one is a yes as it does follow, so we will drag a yes and drop it here. Next we have a last conclusion that says the financial success of some countries may be attributed to their vast iron ore and gold deposits. It does follow because the passage states that resource-rich regions are economically very successful. So it can't be concluded that countries with vast iron ore and gold deposits would be financially successful. So this one again does follow the statement of the question. So we will drag a yes and drop it here. Drag it and drop it. Okay. Next we have question number 6, which says an event was attended by 50 guests and most of them suffered a gastroenteritis attack after consuming the food served. The table shows the details of the guests taken ill at the event. So here is gastroenteritis outbreak data. First we have food items, the number of people who ate and fell ill. Then we have total number who ate, and then we have number of people who did not eat but they fell ill, and then we have a total number of people who did not eat. So place yes if the conclusion does follow and place no if the conclusion does not follow. So the first conclusion says 70% of the guests consumed the carrot skewers and nearly 89% of these guests fell ill. It is most likely that the sandwiches carried the bacteria that caused the outbreak. Then we have almost 91% of the people who attended the event suffered a gastroenteritis attack. Fourth, the risk of developing gastroenteritis was highest among the people who ate carrot skewers. The last we have that among the guests who suffered from gastroenteritis, curried rice was consumed more than other dishes. So here we have these 5 conclusions. So let's see which one does follow and which one does not. So here we have a first conclusion which says 70% of the guests consumed the carrot skewers and nearly 89% of those guests fell ill. This one does follow because 35 out of the 50 guests ate carrot skewers, which is 70%, and 31 out of 35 were ill, which is 88.57%, or nearly 89%. So this one does follow, so we will drag a yes and drop it here. The next one, it does follow because the sandwiches is the only food item that has the highest rate of affected guests when it was eaten and the lowest rate of affected guests when it was not eaten. So it does follow. So again we will drag a yes and drop it here. Now we have a third conclusion. It does not follow because with the information provided we cannot determine how many guests overall fell ill. So we will drag a no and drop it here in front of this conclusion. Fourth conclusion, it does not follow because although 89% of those who ate carrot skewers became ill, so the risk is higher among those who ate onion soup. So this one again does not follow, so we will drop a no in front of it. Last we have the fifth conclusion, which does follow because 40 people consumed the curried rice, the highest number of guests. So we will drag a yes and drop it here in front of this conclusion. So here we have all our conclusions. I hope you get it how we're going to solve the draw, grab and drag questions. So that is enough for today. I'll be back with another video. Continue our next questions in the next video. Till then, just take care and goodbye.